Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode discussing astrology. Last week we talked about the liberation and change that comes with Uranus. And this week we're going to be talking about the transcendental and dreamy nature of Neptune. Uranus is the expansion on a collective level, like an outward level, where Neptune is the expansion of your inner world, okay, of yourself. Again, this is another outer planet, so the ancient god section is a little bit iffy. It's better than the last episode, but it's still a little bit iffy, okay? So let's jump right in. So the Egyptians have personifications of the Mediterranean Sea. Actually, a couple of these older civilizations did. So they had one called Waj Wer. It's Wadj-Wer, or Uat-Ur. Those are supposed to be the same or represent the same deity. And he was a water deity that was the personification of the Mediterranean Sea. The name translates to the Great Green, and he was a god of fertility and symbolizes the richness of the water. The deity was a living entity who embodied the spirit of the divine and the natural world. They also had Nun or Nu, who is the deity that represents chaos. And he was also the source of all creation and the cosmos. This deity embodies divine and earthly existence. Both of these deities, like I said again, though, were not like the gods of the sea, like Poseidon and Neptune, but they were a personification of the sea. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Now, when I look at the picture though of Nu and Wadwer, like it's the same deity. It's the same deity. So next we have the Greeks, and their god of the sea was Poseidon. He is often seen being pulled by real horses or seahorses because he rules over estraquarianism and also the sea. He has an insane amount of power, which manifests as earthquakes and violent windstorms that bring hail, snow, and rain with them. His consort was Amphitrite, but he was no better than any of his brothers. Like Zeus, he had plenty of mistresses, okay? In fact, Medusa became the snake-haired monster that we know her to be because of Poseidon. Poseidon rules over the depth of the sea and represents the collective unconscious. He is considered to be an invisible god of chaos and storms. He also is the god of horses. He is the oldest of the water gods, and Poseidon translates to husband of the earth or lord of the earth. So what happened with Poseidon was that he is the brother of Zeus. So Poseidon, Hades, and Zeus are the three brothers, right? Their father is Kronos. So when Zeus overthrew Kronos, he designated Poseidon the ruler of the sea. Okay, so that's the background story. Now, Neptune is the Roman god of the sea and brother to Jupiter and Pluto, which again are going to be Zeus and Hades. Okay, he is often described or depicted riding a wave on a chariot pulled by seahorses. Neptune was originally known as the god of fresh water before he was associated with Poseidon. And then he was also known to control the waters and had the power to calm waves and bring forth storms. Now Neptune's story is the same story from Poseidon. The Hindu god that is associated with this is going to be Varuna. We talked about them last episode, and I told you guys that he was actually linked with Poseidon instead of being linked with Uranus. But the information, or trying to find that information, was really difficult to navigate. I put him here because he has very similar powers to Poseidon, Neptune, and this god of the sea. Okay, he's actually considered to be the god of the sea, which is what we discussed last time. So Varuna for Hindu. For the Babylonians, there are two associations, but when I tried to look up pictures for them, they're the same god. Okay, so they have Oannes, who is a fish-human creature who emerged from the Persian Gulf every day to share his wisdom with humans. He taught them how to write, art, and science, and was said to have brought civilization to Babylonia. This makes me think about the story I told you guys in the energy episode about the dolphin-like beings who came out of the water and told the Dogon people and other civilizations around the world about the Sirius star A and B and other planets' locations. So I just want to throw that out there. This literally sounds like they personified that deity or that whoever fish person in Babylonia. The other one is Yem, and Yem is a god representing the sea and other sources of water. It was worshipped in various areas on the eastern side of the Mediterranean coast and further inland in Syria. Yem is considered to be a minor deity, though. Mayan had the Kukulkan, and he was the god of the seas, the oceans, and the storms. I believe we talked about him when we talked about Jupiter, but Kukulkan means plumed or amazing serpent. And like a serpent, this god represents knowledge, life, because serpents are associated with wisdom. but he also represents the wind, the sea, and storms. The Celtics have Ler, and he is the god that's linked to Poseidon. He is often shown as the guardian of the other worlds in the afterlife. He has a sea chariot and a cloak of invisibility. He's connected to the ocean and the mysteries of life. He was known to protect sailors, rule island paradise, meaning like if there was like a secluded island somewhere, he would rule over that, and he symbolizes the power of the natural world. And Ler was also a personification of the sea. And then the Norse had Jord, and he's the god of wind and water that protects sailors and fishermen. He also has the ability to bring wealth to the just and deserving. And then they had Aegir, who is the ruler of the sea and its creatures. He is married to the goddess of death and the sea, who is named Ran. But he is more of a personification of the sea than the god of the sea. So boom, those are the gods that are associated with the planet Neptune. Now, the associations of Neptune. Neptune is associated with the number 7, which makes a lot of sense because 7 is the seeker of truth. 7 is about figuring out, what has been hidden. And Neptune is about that subconscious mind. It's about what has been hidden and taking a journey inwards. Here's the symbol for Neptune. There's not a day that's associated with Neptune, but the color associated with Neptune is going to be sea green. The parts of the body are going to be the nervous system, and then esoterically just add in the feet in the spinal column. The metal associated with Neptune is going to be Neptunian, but it's also going to be silver. We know silver is associated with the moon, but, in addition to Neptunium, it's silver. Stones are going to be rock crystal and opal. No herbs or incense. No plants, no chakra, but it is a co-ruler of Pisces. So that means it rules the 12th house. And the 12th house is the ruler of Pisces. So it rules endings, healing, closure, spirituality, solitude, karma, old age, afterlife, what's been hidden, limiting belief systems, and your subconscious mind, okay? It's exalted in Cancer, which means it likes to be in Cancer, likes to be in the moon, which makes sense because it has the correlation with the color silver. And then it falls in Capricorn, meaning it does not like to be in Capricorn because Capricorn has a lot of restrictions and limitations, and Neptune likes to be free. It likes to explore. It has a 165-year cycle around the sun, and it's associated with the tarot card, the Hangman. Now, the Hangman is telling us that it's time to take a sacred pause because we could benefit from a new perspective. It encourages you to go within and figure out what is holding you back. So when you take your next step, you are basically taking that step from a place of confidence. Okay, so let's talk about what it symbolizes in the ancient, esoteric, and modern world. Now, anciently, Neptune was first spotted in 1795, but they didn't know what it was. So it wasn't rediscovered until about 1846 and was named after a deity who was a god of the sea. The name was fitting because of the color of Neptune, which is this really, really beautiful blue. It's like a sea green blue. And it's very pretty, just like Uranus, but also the energy of Neptune, which rules the waters or seas of our subconscious mind. It represents hidden powers, processes, and brings with it the energy of mystery and shows us how we inspire other people. Neptune is all about the inner realm and inspires us to be more creative through art, music, and literature, but it goes retrograde for 5 months each year, so it can also pull you out to the deep end, okay? So Neptune is very dreamy and it's imaginative, so sometimes it can pull you in a direction that looks like solid foundation, but actually turns out to be rocky. This can leave us feeling deceived and wallowing in self-pity. Neptune represents uncertainty about assumptions, the weakening of foundations we thought were sturdy, and remodeling of our belief system. When we experience this energy as a society, there are several scientific breakthroughs and new belief systems around social, political, spiritual, and artistic processes that come into play. In fact, this is actually what was happening in 1846 when the planet was rediscovered. Michael Faraday was making huge advancements in electricity. Anesthesia was used for the first time. Carl Gustav published a groundbreaking book on the subconscious. The U.S. also went to war for Mexico, California, and Texas in an effort to unite the United States from sea to shining sea. Okay? In 1848, that year was deemed the year of revolutions because all of the social tension that was happening at that time. But not only that, Karl Marx published his Communist Manifesto that year too, which is an analysis on how capitalism profits off the back of the working class. So people were just getting fed up and they like, hey, baby, something needs to change. Okay. In addition, the Raphaelite Brotherhood was founded, which is a group of artists who rebelled against the academic art promoted by the royal family, calling it uninspired, shallow, and lacking realism. That's a big deal to go against the royal family, okay? So, the first set of kids that were born with this Neptune placement included in their birth chart brought us gas, electricity, petroleum, and vehicles with motors. They lived through the U.S. Civil War, the advancements of socialism, which is just equality in society, and the reemergence of spirituality. Neptune has a 165-year cycle, which is why it's associated with uncertainty, because the cycle is longer than a human lifespan. There is a lot of coping that comes with Neptune because it brings what is hidden to the surface. So many people turn to religious organizations, or others turn to art when Neptune is around. If Neptune is a ruler in your chart, it is important that you consider and care for the interests of other people as well. Heavy Neptune placements can become attached to putting themselves first and not considering other people. Learn how to share your experiences and not hoard everything to yourself. This planet takes 14 years to go through each sign and represents the assumptions, beliefs, and fashion of that generation. Esoterically, Neptune represents idealism, imagination, and empathy for others. Neptune calls out to the spiritual world to answer questions that cannot be answered in this physical realm or with logic. When Neptune enters a new sign, it purifies the energy of that sign and strengthens the characteristics of that sign, or even the planet that comes into connection with Neptune goes through this purification process. But as we know, water has force and can be messy at times. Occultists believe that Neptune is like when you clean your house and it gets dirtier and messier before it starts to get clean again. This planet definitely clouds things before we get to see the clarity that it brings as well. Neptune breaks down all of our boundaries and tranquilizes the individual ego, which can cause people to get lost or swept away in the waves of illusion that come with Neptune. Because it dissolves the boundaries put in place by Saturn, we are more likely to be deceived, delusional, not be able to see through the illusions, and more prone to addiction. Remember, this planet rules the unconscious, so it pulls back the veil so that we can see that there is more than just us as individuals. There is more than just this world, and there's more beings out there in the omniverse. Okay, so with Neptune comes this acceptance of the mysteries of life, which can either be spiritual or religious in nature. And in modern astrology, Neptune represents imagination and transcendence. It teaches us how to move past material world and into exploration of the boundless imagination that exists inside of all of us. It symbolizes music, poetry, film, and the film industry, art, photography, and fashion. People who are ruled by Neptune usually become priests, mystics, visionaries, or work in hospitals, monasteries, prisons, or other places where there's collective confinement. Neptune has to do with idealism, which is just the perspective that the world is purely mental or spiritual, and the physical world is just the illusion, right? It's the thought process that the cause of something or the noumenon happens in spirit or the mental plane, and we're just seeing the effects, the phenomenon in this plane. Okay. It's also responsible for romance and chaos. Chaos specifically, Neptune knocks down all of our boundaries, which can lead to chaos and confusion, which makes us more prone to being deceived and falling for the illusions, living in a fantasy and forgetting to be grounded in reality. It also comes with disillusionment, which is like those areas in life where we can see joy or the joy that we could be experiencing, but it feels like it's out of reach to us. It kind of leads to disappointment, bitterness, sadness, and sometimes depression. Okay. So if it's that feeling that we're missing out on something. So it's important to remember that your dreams live inside of you. And even if you aren't seeing results in the physical, it does not mean that it's not worth you pursuing. Okay. It also represents the need to transcend, which is, have some type of connection to source, the longing for bliss. And it can come in the form of listening to music or connecting deeply, so deeply that it feels like you're in a trance. Like that can be that longing for bliss. Spiritual escapism, which is the need for us to feel connected to God or source energy. It's the need to discover our spiritual side. Dreams and fantasies, imagination, spiritualism, and sacrifice, but sacrifice specifically meaning like that martyrdom. When people are martyrs and self-sacrificing, sometimes you can be that under this Neptune energy. So boom, that's it. That concludes our episode on Neptune. Now, next week, we are going to be talking about Pluto. I hope you like this content. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe if you have not already. I love y'all deep. And until next time.